Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our fireside chat titled Principles of Stability, applying the lessons of the past to the current and future challenges in cyberspace. Our moderator is Rebecca McLaughlin Eastham, independent TV anchor and media trainer. Our speaker is Joy Chik, President, Identity and Network Access, Microsoft. Rebecca, over to you.
Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, Sabah al khair. A very good morning to you all. Bless you, sir. Saha. It's nice to be back in the plenary room on the second fantastic day of the 2024 Global Cybersecurity Forum here in the heart of Saudi Arabia in Riyadh. It is wonderful to share a stage with you today, Joy. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great conversation coming up because we're going to really drill down into how safe and secure we really are at our organizations and our governments, our private entities, because no matter how robust our security systems, how good the infrastructure and the tools and the consultants that we have on board, the hackers are still finding their way in. They're disrupting and they're devastating some businesses and organizations. So what can we learn from past crises, the polycrises that we've been facing when it comes to cybersecurity? And no company is immune, not least giants in the tech space like Microsoft from the United States. So Joy, let's start there, but let me zoom out for a second. You have a really interesting job. Tell us all what you do.
Yeah, so I've been Microsoft for almost 26 and a half years. I started as an engineer. Currently, I'm running the entire, we call it identity and network infrastructure for Microsoft Cloud that spans across, Microsoft Azure, Office, Microsoft 365, Dynamics, you name it. Also runs all of the Microsoft consumer identity as well, so for Xbox and everything. Always being reminded, my job is not for the faint of heart, because it is really the front door, and I would say the foundation. And, we talk about the analogy of, you basically own the vault of the bank or the national treasury or the crown jewel, if you will. So that sense of responsibility and the sense of the scale in terms for the entire Microsoft, for all the customers across the globe, definitely something reminds me every single day, what's the job and the responsibility.
It is a huge responsibility, not least because it's everything from A to Z. It's how people work, it's how they like to relax and also play. As you say, the responsibility is a heavy one, you wear it well. Talk to me about SFI. What is that and why should we know about it?
Yeah, if we can step back, maybe talk just a little bit, think about cybersecurity, threat landscape. I think we all know over the decades, especially in the recent years, both, I would say, the sophistication as well as the volume just been exponentially increasing. From the volume perspective, we see through all the signals, we see that our customers, that the amount of attempt attack has been almost 600 million attacks every single day. And that's just enormous. And then sophistication, you have as easy as like password spray attack, a phishing attack, but it can also be really sophisticated to really infiltrate the critical infrastructure, especially, now there's more and more nation-state sponsored, very highly organized by military. They staff the whole team, just like they staffing, Microsoft, we have our engineering team. So that, in sense of sophistication and the volume, has just been exponential over the last, many years and in the recent years. Security has always been number one job, especially for me and many teams across Microsoft. But what we see in the threat landscape, as well as some of our recent, in terms of tech, has really taught us the current pace of doing security is not sufficient. So SFI is really, it's called a Secure Future Initiative, is really an effort to accelerate the work we do for security, but also it is a way for us to coordinate across all the services across Microsoft Cloud in a coordinated, one coordinated manner. And the last I would say is, Satya in May made it super clear, security above everything else. So when you come to, in our everyday job, we always have to balance the challenges of security, reliability, quality against the innovation. This make a message loud and clear. At the end of the day, there's work needs to be done, but also it is important to recognize is security is about how do you set that security mindset. So the culture piece is equally important. And I want to say the culture because we all know, if you do a lot of just the security, kind of we call it, the defense work, so you are on the defense side.
Yeah.
But if you can change the culture to shift more left, so you can do things by the product created by secure by design, secure by default, you're shifting left. And that really be on the offense side, and that is, we're trying to accomplish. And last, I would just say the Secure Future Initiative, we really think, security is not just the cyber security, the security specialist or developer's job. It is every single person's job, even our marketing department, if you will, because we think everybody has a role to play in security.
Yes. So many good points there. And security and safety, absolutely top of the list as we continue to hear from our other speakers. When you talk about organizations and indeed states looking to shift or needing to shift from the defensive to the offensive, I don't imagine that's an easy thing to do. It's slow and laborious, like trying to turn the direction of an oil tanker around in a quick time. How is it going to be done, and what's your forecast on that? What feedback are you getting?
Yeah, a few things. One of the things, as we look at the Secure Future Initiative, we started by the 3 principles, which is secure by design, by default, and the ongoing secure operations that we are familiar with. And we also, we talked a lot about in cybersecurity space is you always use the zero trust principle because, you're always going to have an incident. The questions really is how much the blast radius and what is the criticality if what type of information being stolen. So that always assume breach mentality means you have the protection work stream, which the way we kind of laid out our protection work stream is think about your digital estate. It's like layers of terrain. The layers of terrain, of course, starts with identity, which is the front door and the most sort of the first place that any cyber criminals will attack. Yeah. But there's other layers, like your production or corporate environment of different kinds. And then there's a network environment, and then engineering system, because we talked a lot about this throughout this conference, like supply chain security, if you will. So these are different digital terrains, and we're trying to protect with the protect, defend in depth. But then we assume breach, so you would then talk about focusing on monitoring and the detection, because constant monitoring detection allows you to see what are the threats that's been happening across Microsoft Cloud, and for customers, what's happening in their environment, what are the abnormal activities. And of course, then we have to make sure the response is fast as well transparent with our customers. The one key thing when we talk about Secure Future Initiative is not only just to do all the work for making the Microsoft Cloud, making our customers more secure, but how to make it sustainable, right? Because you can do a lot of work, but then things get deviate, and then you have to do another round of the work. So how to make it sustainable is really important. And that means by automation, by having the right security controls, if you will, and by, frankly, sprinkling your environment. So there's many, many things to make it sustainable in the long run. And earlier I talked about the culture piece is ingrained as a part of that.
Password infiltration, I imagine, is a very easy way for a lot of hackers to get in. I'm sure that everybody in the room has 100,000 passwords saved for lots of different logins. Microsoft is looking to eliminate that step. Yeah. What would you replace it with, and what lessons have been learned in the past from some of the attacks that you've recognized?
Yeah, I'll respond this in 2 parts. So as part of the Secure Future Initiative work, so Microsoft is turning 50 years old next
Happy birthday.
next April. So imagine, you lived in a house for 50 years. You have maintained, have done a lot of regular cleaning and maintenance. But imagine since you never moved out of it, so you never done, I would call it deep, like inspection to every single, sort of corners, every single sort of nooks and cracks, if you will. And the SFI effort for Microsoft really for us to step back, because often than not, we focus on what are the critical infrastructure, identity space to protect. What are some of the critical cloud services like Office 365, Microsoft 365. Yeah. But the learning we have through all the past attacks and the incidents is the attackers only need to find one entryway, and then they can enter your environment. And then they can lateral, we call it lateral traverse, to think about they can pivot from places to places. And then eventually they can get into the critical data or the sensitive information that you want to protect. Unfortunately, you get breached. So the learning is really a fewfold. One is, hey, how can we make sure that, we reduce the amount of, we call it, just the surface area, if you will. If you can reduce that, you reduces the opportunities for being attacked. Second is, if the things we think might be innocent, an innocent thing would be, hey, Rebecca, you might create a demonstration, we call it a demo environment, just to showcase something you've done. It sounds really innocent, but guess what? It only takes one attacker to get in your environment, and they find their ways, because these are tenacious hackers. They find ways into the environment. So that is a problem. And the last thing is, to your point about passwords, is we know that passwords just inherently not secure. And a part of a Secure Future initiative, we really see, we have just people want to, not only talk about you write your password on sticky note, but people, email passwords in through their emails. These are just secrets that just should not be, floating around in your digital environment. So the thing what we really focused on as part of Secure Future initiative is, one is how do we, for users, how do we go to passwordless? Passkey is an industry standard that is being collaborated across like Microsoft, Google, Apple, many alliances across the industry. It is a way to use a phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication, but it's also just so convenient because you just need to have your mobile device have a credential that's a passkey that's been safeguarded into your device, and there's no password. So we enable passwordless options like passkeys, and then we actually turn that on in our environment in an enforceable way. So we just eliminate password altogether. And I'm just so delighted. Yesterday I spent a bunch of time, in addition to GCF, also talking to customers, and I just glad to hear, many of the customers, even in Saudi, just starting to adopt passwordless option as a result of that. So these are just some of the examples. I think, the hygiene, how to increase security control, how do we think about balanced security and the productivity. And the last but not least, you should always assume breach, and really about how do we constantly monitoring and detecting.
You touched briefly, and I will be short because the clock is against us, but when it comes to alliances within the industry, with the tech titans getting together, this encourages us as consumers and governments and organizations. Yeah. This is what we want to see. Talk to me, though, about partnerships and collaboration for your clients and externally, and especially across borders. We sit here in Saudi Arabia, the region critical to Microsoft's growth strategy, but what are you seeing in terms of trends? And when we sit here this time next year, how will collaboration and partnership have played a part in moving us forward?
Absolutely. Last year was my first attendance at GCF. One of the conversation we talked about cybersecurity. It is absolutely a team sport. Yeah. I don't think no one company or no one entity can conquer all in terms of the cyber crimes and attacks. I often tell our customers, if you think you are secure because you don't move to the cloud or you think you have everything locked down, the reality is you don't know if you haven't seen it, that means you don't know what's been attacking you, right? Worse than being attacked is you don't even know it's being attacked.
Yes.
So this is security is definitely a team sport. We think, we definitely, Microsoft, we call to actions is how do we share threat signals across the industry with government, with our customer in a way, because we see a ton, trillions of signals, but we also know that there are other signals that we can all collaborate and integrate together, and that's the only way to see the entire, we call it attack graph, if you will. So that's one. And the second, I would say, just like passkey, is how do we all embrace more, the more standards we can embrace and we can work together so you can have all the ecosystem